They woke up with your name still echoing in their mind. But what frightened them most was how real the dream had felt. Their heart was racing, their hands were trembling, and before they could even understand what had happened, they knew they couldn't ignore it. Listen carefully. Because only a few hours later, your soulmate made a decision that left everyone around them completely stunned. In that dream, they weren't surrounded by family, friends, or the person everyone expected them to choose. They were standing somewhere strangely familiar, staring directly at you. There was no anger between you. No distance. No painful silence. You simply looked at them as though you had been waiting for them to finally understand something they should have understood a long time ago. Then you said something. Something so simple that your soulmate woke up before they could answer. For several minutes, they just sat there in complete silence. They tried telling themselves it was only a dream. But deep inside, they knew this one felt different. Because the emotion didn't disappear after waking up. It became stronger. Memories they had spent months trying to bury suddenly returned all at once. The first conversation. The first moment they realized you were different. The promises that were made when nobody else was listening. And finally, the moment everything between you fell apart. That was when your soulmate remembered the exact words you had spoken in the dream. You already know where your heart belongs. Those words shook them. Because lately, everyone around your soulmate had been pushing them toward a future that looked perfect from the outside. A safe decision. A respectable decision. A choice their family could celebrate. But there was one problem. Their heart had never completely agreed. And that morning, the dream forced them to face what they had been avoiding. Don't skip this, because what happened next changed the entire atmosphere inside that house. Your soulmate suddenly reached for their phone. They opened an old conversation they hadn't touched in a very long time. Their finger stopped over your name. For almost a minute, they did nothing. Then someone nearby noticed. "What are you doing?" Your soulmate didn't answer. Another person walked into the room and immediately realized something was wrong. Your soulmate looked emotional, distracted, almost as though they had just received life-changing news. But nobody had called them. Nobody had sent them anything. It had all started with that dream. Then your soulmate stood up and said something nobody expected. "I need to fix something before I lose the chance forever." The room went completely quiet. One family member immediately asked, "Is this about them?" Your soulmate didn't need to ask who they meant. They meant you. And instead of denying it like they had done before, your soulmate looked directly at them and said, "Yes." That single word changed everything. Questions started coming from every direction. Someone reminded them about the plans already being made. Someone else told them not to make an emotional decision because of one dream. But your soulmate had finally reached their limit. "This isn't because of one dream," they said. "The dream only made me admit what I've known for a long time. Nobody had an answer for that. Then your soulmate picked up their keys. That was when everyone realized this wasn't just an emotional morning. They were actually going somewhere. One person stepped in front of them and demanded to know exactly what they planned to do. Your soulmate paused at the door. Their eyes were filled with a mixture of fear, regret, and determination. And then they said the sentence that shocked everyone around them. I'm going to find out whether I still have a chance with the person I should never have let go. But there was something your soulmate didn't know yet. Someone else in that room already knew something about you. Something that had been hidden from your soulmate for a very long time. And just as your soulmate reached for the door, that person finally said, "Before you go looking for them, there's something about you and them that you need to know first." Your soulmate froze with one hand still resting on the door. The determination they had carried only seconds earlier suddenly turned into confusion. Slowly, they looked back at the person who had spoken. Everyone else in the room became silent, because judging by the expression on that person's face, this wasn't going to be a small revelation. "What do you mean there's something I need to know?" The person hesitated. That hesitation alone was enough to make your soulmate's heart pound harder. Because suddenly, the dream didn't feel random anymore. "Tell me," your soulmate demanded. "Whatever it is, tell me now." The person finally admitted that long before you and your soulmate became distant, there had been a conversation about you that your soulmate was never supposed to hear about. Your soulmate's expression changed immediately. What conversation? Nobody answered at first. Then the truth began coming out piece by piece. Someone close to the family had been afraid of how serious your soulmate's feelings for you were becoming. They believed that if the relationship continued, your soulmate might make decisions the family couldn't control. So instead of speaking openly, they created doubt. Small doubts at first. They questioned your intentions. They twisted things you had said. They questioned your intentions. They twisted things you had said. They made your soulmate believe that you were slowly pulling away. And at the same time, you had been given reasons to believe your soulmate no longer wanted you. Your soulmate stared at them in disbelief. "No, that can't be true." But deep inside, something was already connecting. All those unanswered questions. All those strange misunderstandings. All those moments when both of you seemed to be waiting for the other person to speak first. Your soulmate suddenly realized something painful. Maybe neither of you had truly chosen to walk away. Maybe both of you had simply been convinced that the other person already had. The room felt smaller now. Your soulmate's voice dropped. "How long have you known this?" The answer hurt even more. "Long enough." Your soulmate stepped backward as though those two words had physically struck them. "You watched me spend all this time believing they had forgotten me?" Nobody could look them directly in the eyes. That silence gave your soulmate every answer they needed. And suddenly, the dream returned to their mind. You standing there, looking directly at them. telling them they already knew where their heart belonged. Don't skip this, because this was the moment the dream stopped feeling like a memory and started feeling like a warning. Your soulmate pulled out their phone again. This time there was no hesitation. They opened your old contact. But before pressing anything, they asked one final question. Did they ever try to reach me? The person across the room lowered their eyes. Your soulmate immediately knew the answer was going to hurt. Yes. Everything inside your soulmate seemed to stop. When? More than once. Your soulmate's face went pale. Those 3 words completely destroyed the version of the past they had believed for so long. You had tried. You hadn't simply disappeared. You hadn't forgotten. You hadn't walked away without looking back. You had reached out. But somehow, your soulmate had never known. What happened to those messages? Nobody wanted to answer. Your soulmate raised their voice. What happened to them? Finally, one family member admitted that at least one message had been intercepted before your soulmate ever saw it. That confession changed everything. Your soulmate turned away, trying to control the emotion rising inside them. For years, they had carried disappointment toward you. Now that disappointment was turning into regret. Because if they had known you tried to reach them, maybe everything would have been different. Maybe there wouldn't have been years of silence. Maybe there wouldn't have been other relationships, family pressure, or nights spent wondering what went wrong. Your soulmate looked toward the door again. Only now, their reason for leaving had become much stronger. They weren't going to chase a dream. They were going to uncover the truth. Someone tried stopping them again. Think about what you're doing. Your soulmate turned around. I've spent enough time thinking about what everyone else wanted me to do. Nobody moved. Then your soulmate added, for once, I'm going to find out what they wanted. And they walked out. But they didn't immediately come looking for you. First, they drove somewhere nobody expected. A place connected to the last days before you and your soulmate were separated. They needed proof. They needed to know whether the confession they had just heard was completely true. And when they arrived, someone was already waiting there. An older person who remembered exactly what happened between you and your soulmate all those years ago. Your soulmate asked only one question. Did they really try to come back to me? The person looked stunned. Then they slowly walked toward an old cabinet and pulled out something your soulmate had never seen before. A sealed envelope. Your soulmate immediately recognized the handwriting on the front. It was your handwriting. Their hands started trembling. The envelope had never been opened. And across the front were words that made your soulmate's eyes fill with tears. For the day you finally learn the truth. Your soulmate stood there completely speechless. The dream, the confession, the hidden messages, and now this letter. Everything had happened within only a few hours. But the biggest shock was still waiting inside that envelope. Because when your soulmate finally opened it and began reading, they discovered that you had known someone was trying to separate the two of you. And before disappearing from their life, you had left behind one final piece of information that could reveal exactly who started everything. Your soulmate read the final sentence again and again, almost refusing to believe what was written in front of them. The letter wasn't filled with anger. You hadn't blamed them. You hadn't begged them to come back. Instead, you had explained exactly what you discovered in those final days before everything between you collapsed. You wrote that someone had been carrying information back and forth between both sides, changing small details every time. A sentence you spoke with love was repeated as though it had been spoken with anger. A question your soulmate asked out of fear was delivered to you like a final rejection. Every misunderstanding had been carefully made bigger until both of you believed the relationship was already beyond saving. But then your soulmate reached one particular line and stopped breathing for a second. You had written, "If you ever read this, please understand that I never wanted to disappear from your life. I stepped away because I was convinced staying would destroy your relationship with the people you loved." Your soulmate lowered the letter. That sentence broke something inside them. All these years, they had believed you chose another life over them. Now they were discovering that you had sacrificed your own happiness because you thought it would protect theirs. They walked outside holding the letter tightly, trying to process everything. Then their phone rang. It was someone from the family. Your soulmate almost ignored it, but something made them answer. "Come back before you do anything," the voice said. "Why?" There was silence on the other end. Then came the words your soulmate wasn't prepared to hear. "Because the person responsible is here." Your soulmate's entire expression changed. Minutes later, they were driving back with the letter beside them. The dream was no longer the biggest thing on their mind. Now they wanted answers. When your soulmate entered the house, everyone was gathered in the same room. But this time, there was one additional person sitting quietly in the corner. The moment your soulmate saw them, everything began making sense. This was someone they had trusted, someone who had always claimed they were only trying to protect them. Someone who had repeatedly told your soulmate that you had moved on. Your soulmate placed the letter on the table. "Did you do this?" The person didn't answer. "Look at me." Slowly, they raised their head. Your soulmate asked again, "Did you keep us apart?" The person finally whispered, "I thought I was protecting you." Your soulmate's eyes filled with disbelief. "Protecting me from what?" "From making a decision everyone thought you would regret." That answer changed the atmosphere instantly. Your soulmate stepped closer. "You didn't protect me. You decided my life for me." Nobody interrupted. For the first time, your soulmate finally understood how much of their past had been shaped by other people's fears. Then came the confession nobody expected. The person admitted that they hadn't only hidden your message. They had met you privately, they had told you your soulmate was preparing to move forward without you. They convinced you that returning would only create more pain. And you believed them. Your soulmate closed their eyes. Now they understood why you stopped trying. You weren't rejecting them. You thought they had rejected you. The room remained completely silent until your soulmate picked up the letter again. Then they said something that stunned everyone. I lost years because I trusted the wrong story. I'm not losing another day. Someone immediately asked, "What are you going to do?" Your soulmate looked down at your name written across that old envelope. I'm going to tell them the truth myself. This time, nobody tried to stop them. Your soulmate walked outside and sat inside the car. They opened their phone. Your contact was still there. For several seconds, their thumb hovered above the call button. Fear suddenly returned. What if your number had changed? What if you answered but didn't want to hear them? What if too much time had passed? Then your soulmate remembered the dream. Your face. Your voice. Those unforgettable words. They pressed the button. The phone began ringing. Once. Twice. 3 times. Your soulmate's heart was pounding so loudly they could barely think. Then suddenly, the ringing stopped. Someone had answered. Your soulmate couldn't speak. Neither could the person on the other side. There was only silence. A silence carrying years of unfinished emotions. Finally, your soulmate whispered your name. And the moment they heard the response from the other side, tears filled their eyes. But before your soulmate could explain the hidden letter, the confession, or the dream that had started this entire day, you said something first. Something your soulmate never imagined hearing after all these years. I knew one day you would find that letter. Your soulmate froze. Because those words meant one thing. There was still another part of this story they didn't know. And the truth behind that letter was about to reveal why you had never completely closed the door either. Your soulmate couldn't speak for several seconds. Hearing your voice after all that time was already overwhelming, but hearing you say that you knew they would eventually find the letter made their heart pound even harder. They tightened their grip around the phone and finally whispered, "You knew it was still there?" There was a long silence from your side. Then you answered, "I hoped it would stay there until the truth was strong enough to survive everything that had been built around us." Your soulmate closed their eyes. Those words carried years of pain. They wanted to apologize immediately. They wanted to explain the dream, the confession, the hidden messages, everything that had happened since waking up that morning. But before they could begin, you quietly said, "There's something else you need to know." Your soulmate's heart dropped. What else could there possibly be? You explained that the letter wasn't the only thing you had left behind. There had been another piece of proof. Something you had kept because you knew there might come a day when your soulmate needed to understand that the separation had never happened the way everyone claimed. Your soulmate sat completely still inside the car. What kind of proof? You hesitated. A recording. Your soulmate's eyes widened. Suddenly, everything became even more serious. You explained that during one of those final conversations years ago, you had accidentally captured part of a discussion in which someone admitted they were deliberately keeping information away from your soulmate. You never used the recording. You never exposed anyone. At that time, you believed revealing it would tear the entire family apart. So you walked away carrying the truth alone. Your soulmate's voice cracked. Why didn't you fight harder for us? Your answer came quietly. Because I thought loving you meant not forcing you to choose between me and your family. That sentence hit your soulmate harder than anything they had heard that day. They leaned back against the seat as tears finally escaped. All those years they thought you had given up. But you hadn't. You had simply believed walking away was the final act of love you could give them. Your soulmate whispered, "I would have chosen the truth." And you replied, "I know that now." There was another silence. But this silence felt different. It wasn't empty anymore. It was filled with everything both of you had never been allowed to say. Then your soulmate told you about the dream. They described waking up with your name in their mind. They told you exactly what you had said in that dream. You already know where your heart belongs. The other side of the phone became completely quiet. Your soulmate thought the call had disconnected. "Are you still there?" "Yes." But your voice sounded different now. Almost shaken. Then you revealed something that made your soulmate sit upright. You had dreamed about them too. Not months earlier. Not weeks earlier. The same night. Your soulmate stopped breathing for a moment. "What did you see?" You explained that in your dream, your soulmate was standing on the opposite side of a doorway. You wanted to walk toward them, but something kept stopping you. Then your soulmate reached out their hand and said only one sentence. "Don't leave before you know the truth." Neither of you spoke after that. 2 dreams. The same night. Both connected to the same unfinished story. And only hours later, the hidden truth had finally started coming out. Your soulmate didn't know whether to call it coincidence, memory, or simply 2 hearts finally confronting emotions they had buried for too long. But one thing was certain. They weren't going back home without seeing you. "I need to meet you." You didn't answer immediately. Your soulmate continued. "Not tomorrow. Not someday. Today. I've already lost enough time." You finally gave them a place. But before ending the call, you gave one warning. "If we meet, I need you to understand something. I'm not the same person you lost all those years ago." Your soulmate swallowed hard. "Neither am I." The call ended. Hours after waking from that powerful dream, your soulmate was now driving toward you. Nobody around them had expected this morning to end this way. Not the family. Not the person who had hidden the truth. And certainly not your soulmate. When they finally reached the meeting place, they parked but couldn't immediately step out. Their hands were trembling again. Then they looked ahead. And there you were. For the first time in years, there were no messages being intercepted. No family members speaking for either of you. No rumors. No assumptions. Just you and your soulmate standing only a short distance apart. Your soulmate slowly walked toward you. Neither of you knew how to begin. Finally, your soulmate pulled the old letter from their pocket. I read every word. You looked at the envelope and then back into their eyes. Your soulmate's voice became emotional. I'm sorry I learned the truth this late. You shook your head gently. The truth is here now. What matters is what we do with it. That was when your soulmate said what they had been too afraid to admit for years. I never stopped wondering what my life would have looked like if I had chosen you instead of believing everyone else. You stared at them. Then you gave an answer they weren't prepared for. You still have a choice. Your soulmate froze. Because suddenly, this meeting wasn't about repairing the past. It was about deciding the future. And just as your soulmate stepped closer, ready to finally tell you what they wanted, their phone rang. They looked at the screen. It was someone from the family. Your soulmate nearly ignored it. But then a message appeared underneath the missed call. Come back now. We found what was hidden with the original letter. Your soulmate looked at you. You immediately knew something had happened. What is it? They showed you the message. And the moment you read it, your expression changed. Because you knew exactly what they had found. It wasn't another letter. It wasn't the recording. It was something far more unexpected, something connected to a decision that had been made about both of you years ago. And if your soulmate opened it, the final secret behind your separation would no longer belong to the past. It could change what happened between you next. Your soulmate looked into your eyes and immediately knew there was still one final truth waiting to be uncovered. You quietly said, "We should go together." For the first time in years, your soulmate didn't have to face the past without you. When you both returned, the entire family was waiting in complete silence. On the table was an old sealed document that had been hidden with your original letter. Your soulmate slowly opened it while everyone watched. Inside was proof that someone had deliberately changed an important message meant to bring both of you back together. The original message had never said that you wanted to leave. It said exactly the opposite. You had wanted one final meeting before making any permanent decision. But that meeting never happened because your soulmate was told you had already moved on. Your soulmate looked across the room with tears filling their eyes. So we lost all those years because someone decided we shouldn't even have one conversation? Nobody could deny it anymore. Then your soulmate turned toward you. But instead of focusing on anger, they made a decision that shocked everyone. I refuse to let the people who controlled our past control another minute of our future. The room became completely silent. Your soulmate walked toward you and gently took your hand. They admitted that the dream had awakened feelings they had spent years trying to bury. But now they understood the dream hadn't created those feelings. It had simply forced them to finally face them. You looked at your soulmate and said, "Then this time, we make our own decision." Your soulmate smiled through their tears. No family pressure, hidden message, or old lie would make that decision for either of you again. The past could never return the years you had lost. But it could no longer steal what was still possible. And as your soulmate held your hand tighter, they finally said the words they had been afraid to say for years. If there's still a place for me in your future, I'm choosing you. And this time, nobody in that room had the power to separate you again.